You've probably heard this fact before. Ancient humans only worked about 15 hours a week. It's one of the most repeated claims in anthropology, proof that before jobs, before offices, before alarm clocks, life was somehow easier. That number is wrong, not fake, incomplete. And the real research tells a stranger, more useful story than the myth ever did. For 300,000 years, Homo sapiens existed without a single job, paycheck, or office. No 9 to 5, no weekends, because there was no week to escape from. So what actually filled that time? In the 1960s, anthropologist Richard Lee studied the Kung people of the Kalahari Desert and found they needed roughly 12 to 19 hours a week to gather enough food to live on. Anthropologist Marshall Salins ran with it, coining a phrase that's echoed ever since: the original affluent society. Remember that phrase, it's about to mean something different than you think. What almost nobody repeats is this. Lee later admitted his own number left out huge chunks of daily labor, food processing, tool making, general camp work. Once he counted those, his revised estimate landed closer to 40 to 44 hours a week. Not 15, 40. The myth isn't a lie, it's a headline that lost its footnote. So, what does 40 hours of hunter-gatherer work actually look like, hour by hour? Researchers strapped heart rate monitors onto Hadza adults in Tanzania, one of the last groups still living a largely traditional foraging lifestyle, and tracked them for days. The result: about 3.5 hours of light activity and just over 2 hours of moderate to vigorous activity daily. That's foraging for roots and berries, tracking and hunting game, making and repairing tools, processing food, building or maintaining shelter spread across the day, not crammed into one shift. Childcare filled the gaps between, rarely falling on a single parent. Kids were watched by a rotating circle of relatives and older children instead. Which raises an obvious question. If the workload wasn't light, why do these groups still come across as so much more relaxed than we are? Scientists expected the Hadza, clearly more physically active than the average office worker, to burn dramatically more calories per day. When they measured total daily energy expenditure directly, the numbers came back nearly identical to people in modern industrialized countries. Nobody's fully cracked why. One leading theory: the body quietly reallocates energy elsewhere toward immune function or inflammation control rather than simply burning more the harder it works. It gets stranger. The Hadza, the San, and forager farmers in the Amazon actually sleep less on average than people in industrialized countries, somewhere around 6 to 7 hours a night, season depending. Less rest, not more, despite a life with no alarm clocks at all. Same effort, less sleep. So where did the sense of ease Salins described actually come from? Researchers studying the Hadza have specifically noted how much time men spend simply sitting in camp between bursts of activity, often dozing, not idleness. Recovery, built directly into the day's rhythm, the same way rest periods are built into elite athletic training. That's likely what original affluence really meant. Not less total effort, but effort spread out, threaded with real rest, inside a group where no one carried the full weight alone. Agriculture changed all of it, starting around 12,000 years ago. Farming meant fixed schedules tied to planting and harvest, constant tending, and defending stored surplus that hunter-gatherers never accumulated in the first place. Some researchers argue this transition made daily life harder for a long stretch of history, even as it eventually let populations, cities, and civilizations grow in ways foraging never could. The 9 to 5 didn't replace an easy life. It's a distant descendant of the harder one agriculture built. Ancient humans didn't stumble onto a 15-hour paradise. They worked roughly as many hours we do. The real difference is in how those hours were spent, who carried the weight, and how much of the day held genuine rest instead of low-grade constant stress. Maybe the real question isn't how much ancient humans worked. It's what they got in return for the hours they gave. What do you think we lost along the way, and what, if anything, did we gain? Tell me in the comments.